Okay, so slope, the main idea behind slope is its rise divided by run. So it's rise over run. That's the main idea for slope. Rise over run. All right, rise over run. Now, I'm not going to ask because I know that you have before. So, everything that we were dealing with last unit, last chapter, when we were graphing things just left or right. So we were doing with inequalities where you had to find things on a number line and then you were putting the point down and you were graphing it, greater than or less than, you were putting a circle and graphing it, one direction or another. So now we're going to make that a little more complicated. That's called one-dimensional graphing, where you only have left or right. Now we're going to do two-dimensional graphing, where you have an x-axis and a y-axis. So, as a quick refresher for everybody, going left and right, we have our x-axis. Going up and down, we have our y-axis. So x-axis goes left and right, and the y-axis goes up and down. Now for the most part, this should make pretty good sense to you. So the x-axis, like right here in the middle, where these two things meet, we've got our point 0, 0. It's called the origin, right? So that where those 2 points meet, it's 0 on x and it's 0 on y. So whenever we talk about a point in space, it's an x point, comma, a y point. So it's a distance left or right from the origin and a distance up or down from the origin. You guys with me so far?
Yeah.
Cool. So, for example here, and I'm just going to kind of freehand this, I'm going to go 2 spaces right, and I'll have 2 spaces left. I'll do 2 spaces down and 2 spaces up. So I'm just going to put a point in space here somewhere. So I'm going to put a point that is 1 space to the right and 2 spaces up. Right there. So it's 1 space to the right and it's 2 spaces up. Now if I wanted to label this as an xy coordinate, yep, so it's 1, 2, just like Juju said. So 1, 2. So it's 1 to the right, 2 up. You guys remember this from?
Yeah.
Awesome. Perfect. Good. And if I put it like over, let's say here, it's 2 spaces left, 2 spaces down, what would that be? -2, -2. Now what we're going to be doing now is I'm going to talk about a line that is in between these 2 dots. Oh yeah, I know, I'm excited too. This is where algebra starts to come in. This is where things get really exciting. No, I know, it's great, it's awesome, it's good stuff. So, slope is rise over run. I want to find out what the slope in between these 2 points is. So, I'm going to show you today 3 different ways that you could find slope between 2 points. The first way is graphically, using a graph. So to find the slope between these 2 points, I'm going to actually draw a line in between them, plot the 2 points, draw a line, and I'm going to count how much it rises from left to right, and I'm going to count how much it runs from left to right. So between these 2 spaces, I'm going to go, it rises 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you guys see how I'm getting that many spaces? So it goes up 2 here, and then up 2 more here. So I'm kind of drawing in like this right triangle here, in between these 2 points. And this side that goes up is going up 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's rising 4 spaces. You guys see that? Elijah, I'm taking from your exasperated expression that you do not see how I got the 4. Okay. And then for my run here, I'm going to count however long this side is. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. So the run would be how much? 3. So the slope between these 2 points is rise, which is 4, over run, which is 3. So I'm going to say the slope between, right, the slope between 1, 2 and -2, -2 is 4 over 3. Now, as far as math is concerned, as far as algebra is concerned, you always want to leave your slope as an improper fraction. You don't want to change that to 1 1/3, and you especially don't want to write it as 1.3 repeating. You don't want to make it a decimal, and you don't want to make it a mixed number. You want to leave it an improper fraction. So 4/3 is what we want it as. We don't want it as 1 1/3, and we don't want it as as a decimal. Kind of, sort of? So here's the first way that we can find slope between 2 points. I'm going to show you 2 more ways. So way number 2 is there's a formula that you can use to find slope. So formula. And I kind of like the formula more than graphing it out, because I think graphing it out takes up a lot of space, but nothing necessarily wrong with graphing it. So the formula is that slope, and for some reason, and every time I introduce this to algebra students, they always ask me why. For some reason, mathematicians, and I actually know the reason, I'm not going to tell you right now. Mathematicians a long time ago decided that slope was going to be represented by the letter m. So slope, which is m, is equal to this formula. Okay. The reason why is because slope is the average change between these 2 points, and average in Latin is mede, which is m. And so the Latinized or the Romanized letter m is used to represent slope, which is why we use m. Okay. So the formula for slope is y sub 2, so this is y with a little 2 underneath it, minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Now with those little 2's and little 1's, it usually starts freaking students out. Don't freak out. You too will survive this. Literally millions of students are learning this right now across the globe. You will survive this. I promise, really, I promise you, you will survive this. You will. So let's go through an example here using a different set of points. I could do it with these 2 points here, but we already know what the slope for that is. So let's do a different set of points here. Nathan, give me a number between -10 and 10. That wasn't a number.
2.
Great. So let's do 2 and 7. And then Gareth, give me another number between -2 and 10. Great. We'll do -5, 8. So here's our 2 points that we're going to find the slope in between. And I'm going to do it without graphing this time. Now with my 2 points here, I have to decide which point comes first. Now, because I'm just looking at them from left to right, I'm going to say that the point on the left comes first, but you don't have to say that one came first. Like, there's nothing that says that I can't say the point on the right came first, because, like, people in Asia oftentimes read from right to left, and so they might say this one came first. But in America, we read from left to right, so we'll say this one comes first.
I feel like reading the opposite way would be hard.
Well, does anybody here read those manga books? Like, you have to read right to left for those manga books. And, like, you have to read the book on the wrong end first, which I always thought was weird. Whenever you see anybody read one of those manga comic books, like, they open it on the wrong side first. It's weird. Anyway, so I'm going to call this point 1, and I'm going to label these points here. So I'm going to call this, so this is the x part of the point, right? So I'm going to label this x1, and this is the y part of the point, right? So I'm going to label this y1. You guys with me so far? I'm going to label this is the second point, and this is the x part of the second point, so I'm going to label this x2. And this is the y part of the second point, so I'm going to label this y2. All right, so now I've got each of these labeled, x1, y1, x2, y2. So now I'm just going to substitute these into my formula over here. All right? So where it says y2, I'm going to put 8 in place of it. So I'm going to do 8, where y2 would go, minus 7, where y1 would go, over, I'm going to put -5 where x2 would go, minus 2 where x1 would go.
Mind blown.
And now, this is why I had you guys do that problem for your warm-up today. Kind of, sort of? So here I'm going to do 8 minus 7 on top, which is what, like a billion?
Yep.
One. That's
Okay, 1.
15.
It's not 15.
Okay, one.
And then negative 5 minus 2?
Negative 7.
Negative 7. So my answer is 1 over negative 7. And for now, I'm going to say that's okay. Technically, it would just be negative 1/7. For now, I'm fine with you guys just doing 1 over negative 7. That's fine. And that would be the slope in between these 2 points.
Awesome.
I like the formula better.
No, that's fine. I like the formula better than graphing it too. Because graphing it takes up a lot of space. You got to use a piece of graph paper. It's a little time consuming. All right. There's one more method I'm going to show you guys today. But before I show you that other method, I want you guys to try the formula on another set of points. So this set of points here, I want you to try on your own, is going to be, let's do negative 2, 5. And we'll do 3, 4. So I want you to find the slope between these 2 points. Okay. Find the slope between these 2 points using the formula. When you feel like you've got it, raise your hand. I'll come around and check. Nice job. Good job. It should be, yeah. 4 minus 5 is on top. This is 1 minus 5. 4 minus 5 is on top. And 2 minus 5 is on bottom. Good job. Should be 4 minus 5. And then 3 minus negative 2. So it's b to the square. So it should be 3 minus negative 2. So it's 3. Should be 4 minus 5 on top. This 1 minus 5. And then 3 minus negative 2 on top. Good. Alright, cool. So a couple things come up often with this. So like, whenever I show this formula to students, at least half the kids who see this at first will forget which one's x and which one's y, and we'll put the x's on top and the y's on bottom. And the other thing that comes up is a lot of students will forget about the negative. At least half the kids who see this will forget about the negative. So make sure that you are paying attention to that. So when you're doing this, make sure that you're doing the y's on top. So you should do 4 minus 5 on top and not on bottom. And then the other thing is 3 minus negative 2. So instead of being 3 minus 2, you need to make sure that you're respecting that negative there, and it should be 3 minus negative 2. So 4 minus 5 should be negative 1, and then 3 minus negative 2 is positive 5. And then the negative could end up being on bottom, it could end up being on top, or it could end up being in front with the whole thing. It doesn't really matter. And we'll talk about that whole placement of the negative tomorrow, because it's kind of a fickle thing. All right, I'm going to show you one more method. And this is the patented, ancient, passed down from math teacher to math teacher method. I'm going to call the Mr. Taft method. No. So this is the Mr. Taft method. And you can use the Mr. Taft method. You do not have to. If you want to use the formula, use the formula. If you want to graph it, graph it. But you won't always be able to graph it because sometimes the numbers will be too big to graph. But if you don't want to use the Mr. Taft method, I won't take it personally. That's fine. If you want to use that formula every single time, use that formula every single time. The Mr. Taft method. So let's say we've got 2 points here. And the 2 points are 5, negative 8, and we'll do 7, 6. And I want to find the slope between these 2 points. So the Mr. Taft method is as follows. Step number 1, stack the 2 points. Stack the 2 points. Now, like I said, I did not come up with this. I learned this when I was learning how to be a teacher, and I am taking credit for it. If you guys ever become teachers, you can take credit for it and call it whatever you want to. So I'm going to take these 2 points. It doesn't matter which one I put on top. I just have to have one be on top and one be on bottom. So I'm going to have 5, negative 8 be on top, and I'm going to put 7, 6 on bottom. So 7, 6 on bottom. I could go the other way. I could put 5, negative 8 underneath 7, 6. Doesn't matter. Step number 2. I'm going to create a big subtraction problem. Subtraction problem. And so what I mean by that is I'm going to draw a line underneath this. I'm going to put a minus sign in front of it. Then I'm going to subtract. Now I'm not going to subtract it as if it was like 58 and 76. I'm going to pretend like it's like 2 columns of subtraction problems. So I'm going to do negative 8, and I need to respect the negatives. I'm going to do negative 8 minus 6, and I'll get a number. So negative 8 minus 6. So I gotta pay attention to the negative. What's negative 8 minus 6?
14.
Awesome. Negative 14, and that kind of goes over here on its own side. And then over here I'm going to do 5 minus 7. Negative 2. All right, cool. So I'm going to do the big subtraction. Step number 3. Right over left. So the number that's on the right, which is negative 14, goes over the number that's on the left, which is negative 2. So negative 14 over negative 2. And then step number 4, reduce. So negative 14 over negative 2, the negatives can cancel out. And then 14 over 2, what's the common factor for both of those? 7 over 1. 7 over 1 can reduce even further to just be what? 7. Kind of, sort of? You guys see that? All right. Now, cool. So like you can use the Mr. Taft method if you want to. If you don't want to, I will not take it personally. If you want to use the formula instead, use the formula. If you understand it and that makes sense to you and you like it, use that. That's totally fine. You can use the formula on every single slope problem you have, and there will not be a problem with that at all. I'm just giving you the Mr. Taft method as like an extra tool in your toolbox that you can use if you want to. You don't have to use it though if you don't like it. I will not take it personally. Yeah. So one more word too. There are going to be some problems on your assignment here. We're going to talk about this tomorrow. There's going to be some problems on your assignment where you're going to get an answer that looks like 0 over 5 or 5 over 0. For now, something special happens with both of these, but for now, leave these as they are, and we'll talk about what you get with those tomorrow. All right? But for now, leave them as they are. Cool.